Parents of Reddit, what is most freaked up secret you are hiding from your children? I'm the child, but my dad waited till I'm grown up to tell me that my mom gave me a lot of sleeping pills when I was a little child, so she could leave me alone at home to maintain her relationship with her lover while my dad was working in another country. That cleared up many things. People are brutal. Well, sorry man. That I've been changing every clock in the house on New Year's Eve to 3 hours early. At 9 PM we celebrate the new year, then hang out for an hour. He thinks he's breaking every rule and has a great time. Now that he's turning 11, this will never happen again. With phones and being somewhat smarter. Lol. That we weren't actually visiting daddy at his work. It's a secure psychiatric ward where he's been since she was 3 months old. I'm curious how your relationship started with the father. Sounds like an interesting story. My parents told me my sister is adopted. They didn't tell her. She's 34. BTW help, what do I do? Buy the whole family DNA test kits for Christmas and watch the world burn. That I don't actually enjoy watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. My 2-year-old would be devastated because that's our show. I was so relieved when my kid started watching SpongeBob. My daughter knows that her grandparents are getting a divorce. She doesn't know that it's because Grandpa, 72, decided to knock up a 23-year-old. We will talk about it once she's older, but I don't want to normalize that relationship for a pre-adolescent. That we don't go to bed the same time as they do. I never actually took his nose. It stayed on his face the whole time. In fact, it has never once left his face, even though I have told him that I took it countless times. I even showed him the tip of my thumb as evidence of the theft. Sorry you had to read that, but it feels really good to come clean. This was such a refreshing change of pace from all the molester family relatives. They know daddy works with money, but they don't know it's in the cannabis industry. ETA, legally. Estimated time of arrival, legally. Not really fricked up, but still a big secret. I've been living 1/2 hours away from my wife and daughter for the past 11 months. Every time I talk to my daughter she asks when am I coming home? Well, little does she know that next Friday when her and her mom come for what she thinks is just a weekend visit, they are actually coming to pick me up for good. That's as amazing. I hope she'll never have to ask that again. I don't have kids, but here's a family secret. My mom and I left the straightener on for 2 days while we took a family trip to Canada. It doesn't have an automatic off. We haven't told my dad. Kind of the opposite, but on my 18th birthday my father walked into my room with a bag of weed and a bunch of rolling papers and showed me the entire hidden portion of our house, not on blueprints, accessed through hidden door, that he used to grow weed. I had gotten grounded for smoking weed several times by that point in my life. This was in Florida in the 90s. I secretly bought my son after my wife lost our own child during birth. It's quite easy in my country considering there's a lot of poor parents willing to give away their children. My wife regained consciousness after 4 days. Neither her nor my son know this. My 3-year-old is an absolute miracle. Her birth mom, my wife's sister, didn't want her. Basically tried for an intentional miscarriage via massive drinking and drug use. Born 11 weeks premature, and with 5 different drugs in her system. She shouldn't even be alive by most medical estimations, yet here she is. Slight developmental setbacks, but she is solidly inside the bell curve. Her socialization is on point, and she should start school on time. She will know none of this until she is in her teens, most likely. I am so grateful for this impossible little person. Adoptive parent of 3 kids, 2 of which are biological siblings and cousins. Found out a year after the adoption that the biological parents were half siblings who shared the same dad. The bio parents found out after they had the first child and proceeded to have another. The kids are now 16 and 13 respectively and have zero clue that they are a product of incest. Unfortunately their biological grandpa just passed away, so there very well could be a big reveal coming in the near future. A colleague of mine has a friend who hid from her 8-year-old daughter that she, the 8-year-old, would die within a few years because of a terminal illness she got. I'm working out how to explain that the chicken we eat is the same as the kind of chickens that live on a farm. My whole family thinks I'm awful with money because I'm super broke despite having a good job, but I'm actually socking away every spare penny to put my niece through college and to take care of my parents when they can't work anymore. My wife and I each have a child from a previous marriage. Both of our ex-spouses were abusive cheaters. Both children still adore and idolize their other parent, and we just keep smiling and nodding. This probably isn't the type of thing OP was asking, but it is a secret that we will maintain for years. My father molested my daughter. She suppressed the heck out of it. We are still trying to figure out how to break this to her. We cut off all contact with them, but my mother feels that this is something that shouldn't affect their relationship if my daughter doesn't actually remember the incident. I don't agree at all, but that doesn't stop my mother from trying to contact us. She comes from an age when women just suffered and said nothing about it, and so feels that we should just accept my father's apology and move on. It's overall a very confusing situation that we, my husband and I, have trouble understanding how to handle. There's tuna in the fridge, but no matter how much he meows he can't have it because I know he'll just sniff it and meow for something else. My son was planned, but after separating from his father when my son was 8 months old and having basically nowhere to go, no way to actually take care of us on our own, many times I thought about the possibility of dropping him off at the hospital and skipping town. I never did, and he is 8 now and we are very happy. My mom kept it a secret that the woman I was named after, her mom, my grandma, was stabbed to death by my uncle when my mom was 18. I always suspected my grandma had a tragic death because of how my mom would avoid talking about it, but I didn't know it was that tragic. My son is still very young, but I'm not planning to tell him his dad left us for meth and another woman. He's clean now and they actually split. He's at least involved again. Pretty sure they know, but my second cousins are technically twins 2 years apart. Their parents did in vitro and 2 of the eggs were fertilized. They weren't ready for twins, so they froze one of the eggs and had their second kid 2 years later. It's actually pretty cool. Not a parent, but my parents held this secret away from me for a long time. When I was 3-4, my dad volunteered at a baseball park to shuttle people back and forth on a golf cart. Well, one night he didn't come home till really late and I went to hi but stopped to see that he looked scared and distraught. He is normally a rough and tough kind of guy and has a big heart. So I asked him what was wrong, but he said nothing and that he was fine. I believed him and went to bed. I woke up the next morning to see that our cousin, who doubles as our babysitter, was at our house but neither of my parents were. I asked where they went and she said they went to the morning service of church and not the afternoon service. Again, I believed her and never questioned any of it. Flash forward 10 years, my mom told me what really happened. He was shuttling some guy back to the parking lot when the guy put a knife to my dad's neck. He then proceeded to take my dad behind a dumpster and molested him. So when he got home he waited for everyone to go to sleep and then tried to kill himself by overdosing on painkillers. My mom woke up in the middle of the night, realizing that he wasn't in bed. She found him in the bathroom on the floor motionless and called 911 where was sent to the hospital where was treated. He is thankfully still doing strong. I don't know where I would have been without him. Holy crap, glad he survived. After all the acid we did, we thought you kids would be flipper babies. After reading a bunch of these, I feel pretty good that my most fricked up secret is that I eat most of their Halloween Easter parade candy when they are at school. Not a parent but a child. This last Christmas I found out that not only was my mom had already been previously married and divorced, but my dad had a kid before he married my mom. So I have a half brother or sister that I have never met. The real kicker was I found it out from my new sister-in-law who had someone did some digging. Found out, assumed that I must already know and brought it up out of the blue on Christmas Eve while we were baking cookies. Before I found out I was pregnant with my first child, I took a crap ton of pills. I think it's the closest I've ever come to suicide. I had always dealt with anxiety and depression. I feel like the extra hormones put me over the edge. I found out about a week later that I was pregnant. Surprise. I was terrified the entire pregnancy that something would be wrong with him. Luckily, he was completely healthy and is an incredibly smart child. I've never told anyone. I feel so guilty. Here's Bob Ross holding a baby raccoon to brighten your day. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe and comment.